Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to this media launch of the 24th Time of the Writer Festival. A warm welcome to the journalists, bloggers, writers, and most valued partners, and of course, our audience, the people here in the Zoom room and everyone on social media. For many of us, Time of the Writer is not just a festival, but it feels like a milestone this year, a retrospection. A whole year of COVID is behind us as the arts and creative industry. I think I can speak for the entire Time of the Writer team, and probably many of us who are watching here, that we also vividly remember the first lockdown announcement of our president, which happened on the 15th of March 2020, which happens to be the same day that Time of the Writer is going to kick off this year. We went straight to turn Time of the Writer into what later became the first virtual festival in South Africa. At the least, this sudden turn took us all by surprise. But what I remember most from that time is the resilience of everyone involved. Siphiwe Mahala, Kirsten Miller, and Remy Ngamije were the first writers that hosted a virtual book launch. There were many firsts at our festival. Many facilitators were, for the first time, doing a Q&A on Instagram or on Twitter. They were confused, but many of them were handling so well. But that night of the announcement of the first lockdown, we were told that Time of the Writer could not open the next day. But it was not only that. Me, as a business owner, art producer, and publicist, I heard I had to keep my children at home and that I could forget about mine and my staff's income for the coming months. Everyone in South Africa's creative industries had the ground swept away from underneath their feet that day and in the year that came. We all suffered personal loss. We lost artists and essential workers within this industry, and the industry's economic impact has been devastating. I think the Center for Creative Arts has to be commended for staying of great relevance and keeping their festivals going in innovative ways, maintaining artists at work and audiences informed. Digital versions of DIF, Jomba, and Poetry Africa followed and have been of great significance in the industry. At iSupport, we are grateful to be one of the many partners in this movement, as the road ahead is long, but we must stay resilient. The Center for Creative Arts would not have been able to keep going without the support of each of you watching here today. Audience, journalists, writers, artists, for which I thank you, not only for the support for CCA, but also for staying loyal to your industries, for choosing the arts, despite all the curveballs it throws us each day. And now it is time for us to look ahead. And today we are proudly presenting the second virtual version of the Time of the Writer Festival. So during the past 23 years, the Time of the Writer program yearly brought 15, maybe 20 writers who came to Durban. And of course, the Durban writers. And as a publicist, I must admit to you that I almost fell off my chair when I heard and saw the list of participants this year. But I can promise you that the curators definitely went out of their way to spoil the audience this year. I did some calculations just before I got into this Zoom room and concluded that this year's Time of the Writer will host over 30 sessions with over 100 participants. I am sure you would love to hear from the curators, Dr. Ismail Mohammed and Spindila Hlongwa, how all of that will happen. So the virtual mic is over to you, Dr. Ismail Mohammed.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this program launch for 2021. Thank you, Marlene Ntele, who is the marketing representative for the Time of the Writer Festival and also for the Durban International Film Festival. Marlene has set the context under which we were able to present last year's festival. We look forward to be able to share our program with you for this year's festival. But before I do so, I want to also take this opportunity to thank the staff of the Center for the Creative Arts, who last year, without a director at the office, were able to launch the Time of the Writer Festival, as well as the Durban International Film Festival, the Jumba Film Festival, and the Poetry Africa Festival as we went through the year. I'm going to ask my colleague Sipindele Hlongwa to be able to share a PowerPoint with you as we take you through some of the program highlights that we have lined up for you for this year's festival. Sipindele Hlongwa, please. We launched this year's festival also at an interesting time in the history of the Center for the Creative Arts at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the Center for the Creative Arts. We have been known for presenting 4 major festivals: the Time of the Writer Festival, the Jumba Contemporary Dance Festival, the Durban International Film Festival, and the Poetry Africa Festival. As part of our celebrations for this year and our 25th anniversary, we will be announcing in May a new festival that we will be launching, the Arts, Culture and Democracy Festival. So please watch this window for that particular festival. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm going to hand you back to Sipindele Hlongwa to put up a PowerPoint presentation so that we can talk you through some of the highlights for this year's festival. Sipindele, over to you. We seem to have a slight problem. Please bear with us. We apologize.
Apologies, colleagues.
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for that technical hitch. The Center for the Creative Arts, as I mentioned to you, is 25 years old. We are the presenters of the 4 festivals: the Time of the Writer Festival, the Jumba Durban Contemporary Dance Festival, the Durban International Festival, and the Poetry Africa Festival. We pride ourselves on our strong international profile for artistic excellence. We're engaged to advance social change, and we're committed to strengthen South Africa's constitutional democracy through the arts. The Centre has been playing a leadership role in the presentation of festivals and workshops across the country. We also see ourselves as a champion for democracy, for human rights, for social justice, for creative education, and access to the arts for all. Our festivals itself are champions of democracy, and the artists who we work with become the champions themselves. Now, there is no larger readership audience than an audience at a university. We have academics, students, alumni, professionals, and the university's festivals audiences who engage with us. But more than that, the university also has a very intense community engagement program with a series of organizations in NGOs, community partner organizations with whom we also work. So our festivals have an extremely wide reach in terms of participants and audiences. This year's Time of the Writer Festival is made possible with the support from the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Arts and Culture, the National Institute for Humanities and Social Sciences, and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. We're also working in partnership with the Amazwi South African Museum of Literature for the very first time this year, and we're hoping that this partnership will go into the future. Beverly Thomas, who is here from the Amazwi South African Museum of Literature, will talk to us very briefly later on in this program about our partnership. We're also proud to associate ourselves this year with the Imbiza Journal for African Writing, who will be doing critical reviews of all our programs at our festivals. We also intend engaging with the Imbiza Journal for African Writing across our 4 festivals. The STAND Foundation, which is a newly launched initiative that evolved as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic in the arts sector, has partnered with us this year, together with the Foundation for the Human Rights, to launch a special program, and we shall hear about them later in the program. The French Institute for South Africa partnered with us last year with Poetry Africa, an extremely popular program. We plan to engage with them again this year with Time of the Writer, but also going further into our future projects. The Hear My Voice program, who are our technical experts today, have been partnering with us with Poetry Africa, and once again are rendering all our technical support for this year's festival. We thank all our partners and our sponsors for supporting the Center for the Creative Arts and for being able to make our festival accessible to our audiences and to our artists. The curatorial team for this year's festival is my colleague Sipindile Hlongwa, who is the Senior Administrator at the Center for the Creative Arts. Sipindile is also the curator of the Poetry Africa Festival. Cedric Sissing, who's been a supporter of the Time of the Writer Festival for many, many years. And we're proud to welcome this year Pindile Dlamini onto our curatorial team, who has been responsible for programming the Indigenous African language part of our program. We will be sharing information with all of them, but at this point, I'd like to hand you over to Sipindile Hlongwa.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the media launch. We've introduced newer programs on the Time of the Writer Festival. So the first we'll kick off with an award that we've introduced for this year, which is a Literature Champion Award, which we give out to an individual or an organization who has actually committed in promoting the culture of reading and writing amongst the young people. So as you may see on your screen, we are giving that award to Ntokozo Ndlovu, who runs Siyafunda Donate a Book project. We are also having our keynote speaker, Zuisa Wana, who's been on the Time of the Writer stage years before I even joined the center. She is a writer, an editor, and a publisher, as well as a curator, also an award-winning writer. So we're really looking forward to her address, which will be on the 15th at 11 in the morning. The curatorial theme for this year is the writer, whistleblower, canary in the mine, or a testifier, which is taken from Diaz Hernandez's paper. So we're actually looking at conversations that would actually, for us, draw up as the, sorry about that, just for us as the audiences and also people who indulge in literature, looking at how the writer respond to the political space that we are in, the social justice, what is the role that they are playing? Are they a whistleblower on certain issues that we face as the country, or they testify to things that are happening within the country. So we're actually looking at this year having to place a writer in a position where they see that how they view themselves when it comes to human rights or social injustice and so forth. Sorry, just skipped. We're going to be having also our writer, that is our featured writer, which is Fred Khumalo. He's going to be interviewed by Sam Mate, where he will take us on a journey of his writing. He has also participated in the festival as well, I think dating back to 2007, that was even before I joined the center. So he has been a contributor in the literature sphere for the longest time. So the program elements for this year, we are having in conversation with writers in discussion series, staged readings of novels, roundtable discussions, book launches, exhibitions, public participation project, and as mentioned, the keynote author, the featured author, and the literature champion. We also have the International Poetry Day program, which will take place on the 21st of March, which coincide with the International Poetry Day. So we're going to be having a full day program on Sunday, the 21st, around poetry, and closing off with performances featuring poets from the African continent. This is just to kick off or give a taste of what to expect for the 25th edition of Poetry Africa, festival, which will take place in October this year. So the participants in so we also have the program, it's split up into 4 sessions. We've got the brunch, we've got the lunch hour specials, and we've got the cocktail event as well as the dinner discussions. I'll hand it over to Ismail now.
Thank you very much, Sipindile. As Sipindile mentioned that we're introducing 3 new elements into our program this year, we decided to introduce a keynote speaker, Zukiswa Wana, who will be able to give us a guidance as to where the state of our nation is and also where the global community is and how writers are responding to that. Our featured author, we believe that every year's festival must be able to unearth somebody who is a legend or somebody whose voice is incredibly significant in our communities. And we believe that Fred Khumalo, who has been associated with our festival for many, many years, is one such voice. Now, this year's program is centered around a number of program elements, which we have curated according to 5 meal times: a dinner time conversation at 7 in the evening, a cocktail hour at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a lunchtime hour at 1 o'clock, and a 3 o'clock tea time hour, and an 11 o'clock brunch time conversation. And in each of these sessions, we have curated a series of conversations that we think could go with the moods that we have. We know that very often in South Africa, the dinner time conversations are often dealing with the kind of mood of our nation, those tense issues around gender violence, about migration, around corruption, and so forth. And those are the kind of heavy conversations that we've brought into the dinner time conversations. Our cocktail hour conversations, we bring together expert writers together with experts in the field of those subjects who are not necessarily writers, but to allow a dynamic conversation between writers and subject experts. In the lunch hour special, we focus on development, and in the brunch hour sessions, we begin to focus on those areas of our country which we think needs to be the new dawn, those particular areas that have been neglected in some way. I draw your attention to the bottom of our poster, the writer, the witness, canary, or in the mine, or testifier. And that's the question that we wish to ask at the end of our festival this year. To what extent have our writers played that role as witness, canary in the mine, or as testifier? Or even ask the question, should they be playing that role at all? Now, our dinner time conversations, as I said, are inspired by the kind of conversations that we have at dinner time. But we also hope that these are the conversations that we can connect with on social media, particularly in terms of some of the hashtags that we've seen over the last few years. The themes for our dinner conversations are the following, and this is each night. So on the Monday, the 15th, we'll be looking at our central theme, the writer, the whistleblower, the canary in the mine, or the testifier. The next day, we look at narratives of migration. The following day, on Wednesday, versions of the colonial and its future past. On Thursday, gender, power, and violence. On the Friday, the making of place, political, moral, and ethical questions. And on the Saturday, dysphoria, sex, gender, trauma in African literature. Now, these are quite heavy subjects, and the people that we have are experts in the field. You will be able to access the schedule, who is appearing in each program, and who are our moderators for those particular events. In terms of our dinner conversation, some of the names that come up is Anahid Al-Haddad, a writer from Palestine, Andy Kawa, Ashraf Johadeen, Athol Williams, Brent Meersman, Dee Marco, Dilip Menon, Fred Kumalo, Jen Thorpe, Mandy Wiener, Marion Tam, who's going to be moderating, Mary Watson, Mike van Graan, Nancy Richards, Nick Mhlongo, Patrick Mallet, Philippa Kabali, Kabwa, Romelin Ante, Ruth Ramsden, Carol Sir, Sarah Mosutsa, Shafinas Hassam, Shireen Hassam, Timber Masiko, Tracy Saunders, Vamba Sharif, Koliswa Judeni Ngema. You'll be able to get details about their biographies on our website and the days on which they're appearing on our social media pages, as well as on our website. I'm going to hand over to Sipindile to talk to you about the Cocktail Hour series. Sipindile.
The Cocktail Hour series is a gathering of writers, thought leaders, and professionals to discuss subjects that are drawn from both personal and professional experiences. The themes or topics for the cocktail is it's writing in the time of COVID-19, comic imagination in African cinema and literature. This is a panel where we're going to introduce also the curator of the Time of the Durban International Film Festival into the Time of the Writer to comment as a curator of a film festival on that subject. And then we're going to have an exceptional contribution to the liberation struggle. We're looking at Charlotte Manye Maklege, feminism and writing, which is a path to self-realization and empowerment, and using the literature to teach reconciliation in school. So those are the themes for the Cocktail Hour conversations we're going to be having each day.
I'm going to talk to you about the Coffee Club series. In this particular series, we're trying a new innovation this year. We've seen for quite some time in our country where theatre makers are beginning to take novels and turning those novels into scripts for the stage, to be able to broaden the access to those works, but also to be able to interpret those works into new ways. We are going to be presenting 3 works this year. Flame in the Snow, produced by Brian Hiles, The 117 Days by Jackie Rins, which deals with the biography of Ruth First, and Mother to Mother by Sindiwe Magona. But we also have journalists Sam Mate and Michelle Constant, who are going to be engaging with authors and talking to us about their lives, their careers, and the works of those particular authors. What we're trying to do with the Coffee Club series is to go a lot more lighter and deeper into beginning to understand the life and the world of our writers. In the Coffee Club Hour, as I mentioned, we'll be doing a reading of Flame in the Snow, and we'll be engaging with the theatre company that produced this particular work for the stage in terms of how they interpreted the letters of Andre Brink and Ingrid Jonker for the stage. We'll talk to Jackie Rins and to Marcel Meyer. We'll talk to Sindiwe Magona, Yvette Hardy and Bobby Rodwell about Mother to Mother. With teaching African literature in schools, we can be working very closely with the Amazwi Library, South African Library in the Eastern Cape, to be able to ensure that teachers from some of the most remotest parts of that province are also engaged in this particular webinar. Sam Mate will be in conversation with Zakes Mda during the Coffee Club Hour Focus. Now, the participants, as I mentioned to you, I've listed up on here. You'll be able to find these details, their biographies, and the conversations that they will be leading on our website as well. In our lunch hour special, once off, we take this opportunity of giving aspirant writers an opportunity to discover how they can get their works published. This session will be led by Pumlela Kelenka, and we will have the writers Selempilo Dladla, Cornelis Sifunda, and Themba Masiko sharing their experiences of how they got themselves into print. In the brunch hour session of the festival, we'll be going from teaching how to speak everyday Zulu to learning to avoid the pitfalls of translation in the Time of the Writer brunch series. We'll be delving into the languages of KwaZulu-Natal province, and we'll be demonstrating some of the exciting developments that are taking place to redress some of the historic and inherited challenges of language equity in South Africa. We promise that this will be an invigorating session in terms of how you begin to access the language of our province in creative ways. Malusi's Everyday Zulu is an incredibly popular program on social media. We'll be talking to him. Sam Mate will be in conversation with Fred Kumalo, who is our featured author for this year. We're having a discussion of the translation dialogues with a session curated by Pindile Dlamini, and we're grateful to Pansal South Africa for supporting some of the work that we'll be presenting in the isiZulu language series, the isiZulu orthography series, and the Avoiding Pothole series in translation. The participants in the brunch hour conversation, Fred Kumalo, Malusi Shabalala, Michelle Constant, Nakanjani Sibiya, Kusinati Sitoli, Nick Haralambus, Pindile Dlamini, Sam Mate, Sibulele Mokapelo, Sylvia Zulu, and Zadwa Matsa. Now, some of you may have heard of Nick Haralambus, who was interviewed on SAFM last week. Michelle Constant, who interviewed him on radio, will be talking to him again at the Time of the Writer Festival. Now I'm going to hand over to Sipinele Hlongwa to talk to you about an African book review competition that we introduced this year as our public participation program. Sipinele.
The African Book Review is a competition that is open up to the youth until the age of 35. It's open to the youth within the African continent. So it's been weeks that we've opened the competition, and we're starting to receive our entries where the youth have to review a book written by an African writer. So if you have been following our social media, we have started posting the reviews on our social media pages. So it is opened up until the 14th of March. So we encourage people to submit their reviews, all to drive we're doing this so that we encourage the youth to read our African writers' books, and also recommend the book for anyone who has not read the book, so that we drive sales for our writers, because we understand this is the hard time that we're in. And also it takes a lot for our writers to publish a book. So a book is best enjoyed if everyone has access to it and read that book. So we're trying to encourage people to buy the writers' books and also be able to review and recommend for someone else who has not. So the competition is open until the 14th of March. Also, we've got one category, which is the Audience Choice Award category. So we are going to be posting all these reviews on our social media pages. So we encourage that the viewers actually like and share, so that whoever gets the most likes and share gets the Audience Choice Award. We do have the prizes for this book review competition. The first winner walks away with 5,000 rands, second 2,500, and then the third winner gets 1,500 rands. Then the Audience Choice Awards walks away with 1,000 rands. Thank you.
Our new partner for this year is the Amazwi South African Library, and they're going to be presenting 2 exhibitions at our festival this year. The Amazwi Library is also going to be live streaming parallel to us the events, so that people in the Eastern Cape, or particularly in Makanda, who do not have data, who do not have access to internet, can come to the Amazwi Library to be able to participate and engage with the festival. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Beverly Thomas, the director of the Amazwi South African Library Museum, to address you briefly. Beverly Thomas.
Good morning, everyone. It's indeed a privilege to be here. Amasvi South African Museum of Literature is the new name of the former National English Literary Museum, which now has a mandate to collect artifacts from all the linguistic communities of South Africa. We are housed in a dynamic new building with interactive exhibitions that were constructed to serve its expanded mandate. The museum's participation in events like Time of the Writer enables it to increase its reach beyond the boundaries of the Eastern Cape, beyond Makanda and beyond Cradock, where we have a satellite museum, Schreiner House. Despite the distressing social, psychological, and economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, physical isolation has inspired innovation in the digital and virtual spheres of our work. And Amasvi is proud to present 2 exhibitions at the virtual 24th Time of the Writer International Festival in conjunction with the University of KwaZulu-Natal Center for Creative Arts. The first exhibition, Eskiem Verschleli, Man of Letters, was originally launched as a traveling exhibition at the beginning of 2020, but the COVID lockdown severely limited its circulation. The exhibition was produced to celebrate the centenary of the birth in 2019 of this prolific writer, teacher, and journalist. It was curated to present Mfihleli in his own voice, drawn from the many letters in his own hand in the collection of the museum. It is now being presented in its digital format for the first time. Amasvi will also be launching its newest exhibition, Old Man Africa Shouting at the World, created in a virtual format during this festival. The subject of the exhibition, Tatamkhulu Africa, was a celebrated poet and novelist during the 1990s. He was a person of multiple identities who lived a complex but tragic life. Africa wrote about the poor and the dispossessed, sexual identity and belonging. He would have been 100 years old in December this last year, and the exhibition was made to celebrate the centenary of his birth. This is a wonderful new opportunity for Amasvi to share our collections, share our museum and our activities with the Time of the Writer Festival. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beverly. I also want to take this opportunity of thanking Zongisile Matshoba and Crystal Warren at the Amasvi South African Library Museum for being partners with us and for their enthusiastic curation of the 2 exhibitions that Beverly has spoken to you about. And we plan to even have you cannot have a walkabout, but we will have a talkabout of the exhibitions scheduled in the program. I'm going to come back to the Imbiza Journal in a short while, but before we do that, I want to go to the Stand Foundation partnership. This year's festival ends on the International Poetry Day, which also happens to be South African Human Rights Day. In a unique partnership with the Stand Foundation and the Foundation for Human Rights, we will be celebrating our culture of human rights through poetry. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to call on Mike van Graan to briefly address us. Mike van Graan of the Stand Foundation.
Hello, and thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this morning. The Stand Foundation, for those of you who don't know, basically stands for the Sustaining Theatre and Dance Foundation. And this came into being on the 1st of September last year, very much as a private initiative by individuals within the dance and theatre sector to really take care of our sector, largely because of the devastation that COVID-19 had wreaked on dance and theatre in our country. And rather than rely on government or other potential partners, we decided that we needed to be more proactive in taking responsibility for what was happening both within the COVID-19 lockdown conditions, but also beyond COVID-19, because ultimately dance and theatre are going to be needing support that hasn't really been forthcoming from the public sector as well as from other kinds of sectors. So on the 1st of September, we launched the Stand Foundation, and since then we've been engaging in a whole range of different projects, including one with the Center for Creative Arts. In fact, one of our first projects that we did was a mentorship of 4 new young choreographers that we did in association with the Jomba Dance Festival. That's one of the projects of the Center for Creative Arts. And since then, we've been able to grow and raise additional funding for the various projects that we've done. And we are delighted to be able to do this project as well with the Center for Creative Arts. One of the principles of the STAN Foundation is to do as much of the work that we do in association with partners, so that we don't develop our own infrastructure and have to employ more and more staff. There are fantastic organizations out there that are doing amazing work. We just need to bring along a little bit of our vision and raise some resources and work in partnership with them. And so we are delighted that we were able to raise the money from the Foundation for Human Rights to present this particular project with the Center for Creative Arts on the 21st of March. So there are two aspects to the project, really. We've basically called for poets in the country to be writing poetry that celebrates, critiques, reflects on human rights in our country. And there will be a performance of some of the best poems that are selected for this performance on the 21st, an event that will be done online. And then there'll be an online publication as well of the best poems that are curated by Malik Ndlovu and Sipokazi Jonas, who are the two curators appointed to run this particular project. So yeah, as I said, we are delighted to have done this in association with the Center for Creative Arts, and we look forward to doing more projects with them in the future. And thank you again for this opportunity to do this, and thanks again to the Foundation for Human Rights for their progressive attitude in supporting this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you to the Foundation for Human Rights and to the STAN Foundation. The kind of collaborations that we do at this particular time, where we know that the arts sector is incredibly affected by the national lockdown. Many artists have been without work for almost an entire year. So the joining of hands between various entities and various foundations to be able to ensure that our artists are able to create, are able to write, and are able to engage with us is incredibly valuable. Ladies and gentlemen, the IFAS partnership, the French Institute of South Africa, has been engaged with the arts in South Africa for many, many years, over 25 years since they first came into the country. IFAS was going to have its own little celebrations last year, but COVID-19 somehow took a turn, and they joined hands with the Center for the Creative Arts to be able to create lots and lots and lots of work for poets last year. Part of that was the creation of an anthology, which we plan to launch at this year's Time of the Writer Festival. It's my pleasure to call on the director of the French Institute of South Africa, Selene Deva.
Thank you very much, Ishmael. We're extremely happy to be partnering with the Center for Creative Arts and the Time of the Writer Festival specifically. Thank you very much for mentioning the last year's project, and we're very happy to be launching this anthology called Yesterdays in Imagining Reality on the 21st of March during the International Poetry Day and Human Rights Day. Maybe to give to say a few words about this project and why it's so important to us. Of course, Ishmael, as you said, last year was supposed to be a year of celebration because we were celebrating the 25th year of IFAS in South Africa, but we were talking about curveballs earlier, and well, it was 2020 was definitely full of those, and I'm happy in the end to have been able to adapt of course to online projects, but also support artists in many ways. So not only because online content of course is needed, but we also wanted to work on something that would stay for a long time. So that's how the idea of this poetry anthology came, and of course we were in a time where we needed to also reflect maybe on our surroundings, on the future, and what a better way to do it than to support poets in thinking about the past, the future, and their hopes for this country. So we have launched a call for application in August last year around the topic of history and imagined realities, and we have been able to gather, well, we received around 400 poems and have been able to gather 30 poems of 26 poets under 30 years old. Those poems are in 5 South African language, and that was also something extremely important for us to support plurilingualism, which is also something that that the French diplomacy supports very much. So it was extremely important for us to integrate this in this project, and we will be launching the book on the 21st. With an event which I hope you will all be attending, and we'll have the chance to have different participants to this project. We'll have, of course, one of the translators, because all the poems are translated to English. So one of our translators, Sabelo Soko, one of our judges, Tony Stewart, our publisher, Van Gile, because this anthology couldn't have existed without Impepo Press, who is our partner on this project, and without Total South Africa, who is also supportive of this project. And we'll also have a few readings of poems that will be in the anthology. So we'll have Mazwi Shazi and Masindine Tsakuma, who will be reading some of their poems which are in the anthology. So I'm very excited and looking forward to this event. And I'm really thankful for the Center for Creative Arts to give space to this wonderful project, to have been on board since the very inception of it. Thank you very much, Ishmael and Sipindile. And I'm looking forward to this extraordinary program that you've prepared.
Thank you very much, Lynn, and thank you to your entire team at the Institute, the French Institute of South Africa. It's always an incredible pleasure to work with your team. They embrace South African artists with absolute passion. Since the very first time that you began to do cultural work in South Africa, and the notion of co-creation is incredibly important. It's not a parachuting in and a parachuting out. It's working together, collaborating together, shared voices in very, very significant ways. Now, ladies and gentlemen, poetry is on the agenda big this year. We did say that the last day of our festival ends on the day that we mark International Poetry Day. But this year's festival, the Poetry Africa Festival, is also going to be turning 25 years old. And we want to make this a special year for poets. In association with the National Institute for Humanities and Social Sciences, we will be working on 2 publications. We'll be releasing details of that in due course, but we also will be documenting through film the work of some of our poets. We will share that information on our website, so watch us as we go on that. But before I get to our other partner, I want to take this opportunity of again saying thank you to the Amazwi South African Museum of Literature, to the French Institute of South Africa, the Foundation for Human Rights, and to the Stand Foundation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a festival located within a university environment certainly has to be more than just a cultural event. We firmly believe that the Center for the Creative Arts, having been a leader for 25 years in the cultural sector in terms of innovation, in terms of creating work, must also be able to engage, impact, and influence the curriculum within our universities. And for this reason, we're partnering this year in a very, very special way with the Imbiza Journal for African Writing. And I want to acknowledge the director and founder of the Imbiza Journal, Sipiwe Mahala, who for many years has been involved with the Center for the Creative Arts in terms of supporting our festivals through the previous positions that he had. The launch of the Imbiza Journal in South Africa is going to be a magnificent contribution in terms we begin to critique the arts. We know that the print media has reduced the space for arts journalism, but we also know that social media in some way has dampened the kind of intense critique that we require of the arts, so that we don't stay just where we are and become comfortable with what we're doing. Imbiza Journal this year will be engaging critically with the festival, reviewing the kind of conversations that we have, writing about that, and we hope that the journal itself can become a contributor to knowledge generation at the university, not just at the KwaZulu-Natal, but also at other institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce the Imbiza Journal in a video presentation to you.
Imbiza Journal for African Writing is an inclusive publishing platform that combines imaginative and scholarly writing.
It bridges the gap between cultural workers, critics, and academics to cater for diverse audiences across the spectrum of society. By naming this journal Imbiza, we model it on the three-legged pot, which has been producing food for generations of African communities. The pot is a symbol of nourishment, strength and endurance, withstanding fires on which it stands. The three legs of the African pot, the round shape and handle, all symbolize the spirit of communality, partnerships, and working together. We cherish partnerships that contribute to the development of a knowledgeable society and building a nation of readers. We are proud to be a media partner of Time of the Writer, a festival that amplifies the voices of writers, activists, and social commentators. Together, let us produce a feast of literature and intellectual engagement. Imbiza Journal, nourishing the mind, nurturing a nation of readers.
Thank you very much to the Imbiza Journal for choosing the Center for the Creative Arts and the Time of the Writer Festival as the first festival about which they're going to be writing. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much to all our sponsors, to all our funders, the Department of Arts, Sports, Arts and Culture in the KwaZulu-Natal province, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the Stand Foundation, the Foundation for Human Rights, the Amazwi South African Library Museum, the French Institute for South Africa, our service providers, iSupport, and Hear My Voice. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand you back to Marlene, who is our media representative, who will also just share the broad grid of our program with you and be able to tell you more about how you can connect with us on social media, and we will entertain questions from you. Thank you very much to all of you. Back to Marlene.
Thank you so much, Ismail Mohammed, for that, and also Spindile and the other speakers for giving us a bit more insight in what the program is going to look like. For everyone's convenience, I have posted a copy of the program in the Zoom chat, but do not worry if you're watching this on social media, because also there the program will be shared with you shortly in one of our statuses, and it's also downloadable on the website. Our website is tow.ukzn.az.za. In the coming weeks, you'll find a bit more user-friendly program appearing on the website. You'll also find the participants' bios and some outstanding program items. So it's going to be a feast still. I can imagine today was a lot to digest, because it's an immensely big program, I believe, which is great. And so I don't know if anyone has any questions. You're free to write them in the chat or to stick up your hand. In the meantime, I'll also tell you our social media handles. You can find Time of the Writer on Facebook, facebook.com/Time of the Writer, on Twitter @Time of the Writer, and on Instagram @Time of the Writer. So it's very easy. The hashtag that we are using is hashtag TOW2021, as well as hashtag Food for Thought, fitting with the cocktail sessions and the brunch sessions and the dinner sessions. So thank you so much. If there's no questions at the moment, I believe everyone knows how to find us. Feel free to email, inbox, if there's any questions. And I want to thank you all for coming today, and have a good day and a great week ahead.